One of the things my therapist said, which I'll never forget, was you're living in your own worst case scenario because you've decided that you are.
Okay, say
And I
that
was,
again for everybody.
you are living in your own worst case scenario because you've decided that you are.
That is real talk.
Yeah, it meant to me that I was making my life hell because it was hell in my head. And if I just chose that it wasn't, I know it sounds like
Mm.
so many of you are like, this is so frustrating. Like, that's not the answer I want. But to just choose to be different, I choose to not have that mindset anymore. I choose to not identify with my burnout story. I choose to not identify as broke. I choose to not identify as a starving artist. Things start to shift. Even if the outside world doesn't shift, at least you're happier. And then things start to attract to you, right?
Life's too short for bad coffee or bad leadership. I'm Lindsay Yellin, executive leadership coach, coffee enthusiast, and former ad VP turned believer in leading from a place of possibility. On Unfiltered Leadership, we skip the buzzwords and dig into the messy, human, and powerful side of leadership with real conversations and practical takeaways. Now grab your mug. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome to Unfiltered Leadership. I'm so excited to share today's conversation with you. It is all about exploring what happens when you stop building a business or a career from your head and start leading from your heart. I am sitting down with Diana Davis, who's the founder of Recess for Creatives and a coach to hundreds of creative entrepreneurs. And she helps heart-led leaders build profitable, purpose-driven businesses with clarity and joy. And truly she does. She brings like all of her special sauce to this conversation that makes it really unforgettable. We talk about identity, self-trust, and why your greatest growth starts with letting go of judgment. So grab your mug, cozy up with us, enjoy this very heartfelt conversation with the really incredible Diana Davis. Hi, Diana. Welcome.
Hi, we're doing it.
We're doing it. Folks, we rescheduled this like multiple times, mainly due to me. And then Diana went on this like epic backpacking road trip situation, but she's back and now we're finally here. And I do believe in good spirit that this is the right time. The universe brought us together to talk today for a reason. And the sun is shining. And Dan, I have to say you inspired me a lot for our podcast recording today. So I really wanted to channel you before we got on. First off, the hat I chose to wear today, because it's a hat day, is actually a hat that I got in Davenport, which is like right outside Santa Cruz.
I love that.
And I've been thinking about you in Santa Cruz a lot recently.
Yes.
And then the mug I chose today is this, what I call the lavender lemonade mug, which is purple and yellow and has like this like squiggly cool handle. And it just felt very like magical and creative and fun and joyful. And that is everything that you are. And so I'm like, what mug will best like make me feel connected to you? And this was what I chose.
What an amazing compliment.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, it's great. Yellow's my favorite color.
Oh my gosh. Okay, me too.
Yeah.
For those that are not watching, it is like a purple, yellow kind of gradient mug with this like amazing swiggly handle and a cool shape. And it is by an artist named Mudwitch is her brand out of San Francisco. And I bought her from her at an art show a couple of years ago. And her stuff is all fun and so colorful and great shapes and just like bubbly and amazing. But what's in your mug today?
I don't drink coffee, so I've got matcha in my mug per usual with some cashew milk actually. And today in my frothing milk, I put cardamom and cinnamon.
Wow.
This is a mug from Cold Spring, New York, and it's like
Beautiful.
a maker there. So I used to live in New York City. It's like, for those not seeing this, it's like a navy blue,
Beautiful,
drippy glaze mug. And I think it's a he. He's heavy.
Yeah.
He's like a 2 hands mug. It's big.
I love a 2-hand mug moment. That is a mug I would pick up and look at and be like, do I need this one? Probably.
Yep.
Probably.
Totally.
I can always justify a ceramic mug moment purchase, but I'm really working hard on limiting that. Well, Dan, I'm so grateful to have you here today and that the audience gets to hear your brilliance. And I wanted to just tie a connection to you coach creative entrepreneurs. And I'd love for you to give us in a moment like a bit of a background of what that means to you or just like how you define that and how people can connect to that idea. But I, as a coach a bit more in the corporate space, but I work in very creative industries. And a lot of the professionals that I coach are creative professionals, whether they are actually creative, directors within the advertising space or folks that are very creative within the wider marketing space. And I'm like, "Oh," like there is a connection there of us working with very creative minded professionals, whether in and out of, a more typical business corporate setting.
Yeah.
Tell me about
I
like
love
your
that.
definition of creative entrepreneurs and who you serve.
Totally. I want to start off by saying I always say social, like social media. I teach social as social. So it's in
Mhm.
real life, it's on these podcasts, it's in a bar, it's in an elevator. And part of that is just knowing what you do and how to say it. So this is what I'm about to do, but I always love to just like give that context of like, here we go. This is what you can also do in the wild. It doesn't have to be just on Instagram. But I always tell people I was a photographer and graphic designer by trade. I went to school for that. I was in corporate, I was in magazines. I got laid off, best day of my life. And then I started my own photography and graphic design business, quickly scaled that to six figures, which blew my little ranch girl Colorado mind that that was even possible, especially as an artist living in New York City. And then as I was building my business and had so many questions and did so many things wrong, but also so many things right, and I was hearing about my other creative community people really struggling with pricing and systems and mindset and showing up online or anywhere, as we're saying, social is anywhere. I started to really mentor on that and then became a full-time business coach for those creative entrepreneurs in 2020 and have been doing that ever since. And that can mean you're a real estate agent, can mean you're a nutritionist, it can mean you're literally a ceramics artist, a painter, a photographer, a designer. That's part of what I love so much is I get to be in all of those industries. I'm not a coach that coaches coaches that coaches coaches, which I really am grateful. But yeah, the creative entrepreneur, to answer your question, is to me someone who has a heart-centered business versus a brain-centered business.
Yeah.
There's so many people who are really good at just finding a hole in the market and making something to fill it.
Yeah.
Us, we're like coming from this is like my calling, this is my purpose. I couldn't do anything else even if I tried. And that really warps things for creatives. It's like really hard to get things straight logistically for a business when you're leading from your heart. So that's what we all have in common, even if you're a real estate agent who's really heart led.
Yeah. And what do you notice? First of all, I love that definition. And I don't know if I've heard you talk about it in that way. But I haven't heard anyone else really talk about it in that way. And that is like super resonant for me. And I feel like that connection with a lot of the clients that I serve and why they're often in such a stuck and frustrated position and in a place of such self disconnection because they're in a place where they have to be mind led or heart or head led or brain led, however you said it so brilliantly, but they want to be heart led. And that is also what I'm noticing so much in this day and age is that with, especially in the corporate setting, a lot of the heart is being taken away. Like empathy is no longer a asset or a great sign of leadership. It's actually something that is like seen as a weakness again. And so all of these leaders that are deeply heart led, either with the work or with the people, with their purpose in these environments are feeling so constricted and feeling so at odds with their values and their nature. And it creates such a tension and such an unhappiness. But that just like really struck something with me. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as creatives, again, just being really clear that it doesn't have to mean you paint or move pixels around to be a
Yeah.
creative, but constriction is like just the enemy. It's not like how we talk about, what do they say? They don't use the word constriction, but like constriction breeds creativity when you
Mm,
have like
yes.
it makes you like get creative about the problem. I think that's very different than like stamping out your fire.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I hear and see that a lot. And from coming from, an agency world that is meant to be full of creativity and ideas, there are things all around that are trying to stamp out different type of fires, whether like amazing ideas and innovation because of budgets or scared clients or whatever, or the other kind, which I think you're referring to, which is like the internal fire and like kind of making you go dead inside, which can be partly because of that first, but mainly for other reasons that I think are very where there's like values misalignment and disrespect and disconnection and a lot of those pieces. What do you believe when working with these heart-led creative entrepreneurs, what gets in their way the most? In whether it's building a business and believing in themselves and believing in their work, what gets in the way the most?
Honestly, I don't think this is the answer you think I'm gonna say. But what comes up right now is judgment of others,
Huh?
therefore you're judging yourself. You know how you're like, that
Yes.
girl's wearing that black dress. Are you kidding me? But really, like, you're judging her because you're like, you could never wear that, Diana. Are you joking? Like,
Yeah, like
you're not confident enough for
the
that.
projection of
Yes.
self-judgment. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So I think so many people, even a client the other day was like, I was telling them, comment on your post first. Like, be in the comments. It's like inviting someone to the party, but not opening the door when they get there. Like, be in the comments. Don't let them be alone in there. It's weird. And she was like, oh, I judge people so hard when they comment first, though. It's kind of ick. And I'm like, this is interesting.
This explains a lot.
Yeah. So it's like that's a micro example of the bigger projection of you're judging someone else for being cringy. Basically, they're putting themselves out there, they're selling their stuff, they're making money, they're successful. And you're like, ew, because you're judging yourself if you were to do that. And then that holds you back big time.
And it feels what I'm getting from that is like it is just it's a way of self-protection from the vulnerability
Absolutely.
of doing something that feels very vulnerable. So you can look at other people and be like, I can't believe you would do that. You're only judging that because you don't currently have the courage, the belief in yourself or confidence or whatever to do that for yourself yet.
Yeah. And we're creatives. Like a lot of us just want to be behind the work.
Yeah.
We don't, whether it's in corporate or our entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, we're not taught to sell in graphic design school. We're not taught to market ourselves. We're taught to build a portfolio and get a job at an agency. And it's like to put ourselves out there in that way must be narcissistic, right? And it just feels so uncomfortable for people. And yeah, I get it. When I was a photographer, I remember first putting those posts up of my face. I was like, oh my God, like I just want to be behind the camera, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And what do you, as someone that helps unlock creatives from that place and from that, like the shackles of that, I would say, what are some of the greatest unlocks or mindset shifts that you offer those that are battling with that type of projection based on own self-judgment?
Yeah, I think exposure therapy is one. An easy one of just like practice makes perfect. You have to do things that are uncomfortable. But the other thing is that really shifting to your why. If you're wanting your art to be out there in the world, whatever that looks like, and you're truly coming from a place of service and heart, then we've got to let people know about your stuff. So instead of making it, you're actually making it more about you by like staying small,
Yeah.
which is ironic because they think they're making it more about themselves if they're showing their face or putting themselves out there in a way, whether it's, putting their hat in the ring for a project or a raise or actually selling on Instagram. And so really shifting that mindset to like, who can I serve today? If I show up and I say this thing, or I inspire someone else to get out their paints, or if I sell this mug and it then gets talked about in a conversation starter on this podcast, like the ripple effect is real. And if I don't start the ripple, it will never happen. And that gift that you have inside that the universe, bestowed upon you is not going to get out to the people. So we work on the why. You hear like Simon Sinek, all of that. Like, what's the why? Why are you doing this? And not just for money and not just for freedom, because that stuff comes And then we're like, cool. And then we have it. And what else drives us? But really, why are you putting our art into the world? Why does it matter to you?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not putting it out there, it can't do its job.
That brings me back to something that we talked about a little bit of that I want to touch on first is as you talk about the why and like purpose. I was just in a workshop, led this like 2.5 hour with a partner corporate workshop yesterday. And the whole first part of it was all based on purpose. And we took them through a whole visualization. And these are corporate leaders that are going from kind of mid-level, high potential into like their first kind of different type of leadership expectation. So they're in this really pertinent type of transition moment where they have to lead themselves differently than others. Anyways, so we're taking them through like getting in touch with their deeper purpose and impact and why to drive this like what that often can feel so draining. And something that got brought up from people in that room was, wow, this is so powerful because I never really give myself the chance to actually sit in stillness and think about this and actually think about what am I doing? What am I here for? What am I trying to do? What's my unique impact in the world? How do I want to do that? And I think that's probably a gift, like a huge gift of what you give to your entrepreneurs, to your clients through your programs, through your coaching, is that you are inviting them in and saying, this is critical work. And you need to pause and be still with yourself and get curious and actually start from that place of why. I don't think we ever do that unless someone forces us or we have that kind of awareness that it's a necessity.
Yeah. I mean, the program that I just shut down but have ran for 5 years is called Camp Clarity. And that's the kind of stuff we start with. It's like, what's your story? How did you get here? What is your why? Who are you serving?
Right.
And it's the pipes of the house. Like it's the under thing. We don't want to look at it a lot of times. We're just like building, walls, plywood freaking walls. We're just throwing up as we go through our life, our career, our entrepreneurship journey. And all of a sudden we have this kind of janky house that we've added on this and this and this instead of going, whoa, I'm a different person than I was when I started this career, when I started this journey. Are the pipes still working? Are they the same? Do we need to totally like rebuild the house? And yeah, starting from that place of like, another analogy, I love an analogy, is like checking the oil in our car, like
Yeah.
are we good under the hood, or instead of just driving to the thing and going pedal to the metal?
Yeah. And part of that too, I wonder that plays into this, and this is something I know we talked a little bit about, and I love your perspective on, is like, then based on that why and what's driving the business, how does that then relate or I guess also like drive identity? And
Mm,
someone's identity in their business, or when then trying to say, okay, now I understand I have something to connect to in moments of being blocked, of putting it out there or believing in myself. But how do they then orient themselves as a person around this why with the rest of the
yeah, man, it's tough as a heart-centered person to separate. It's like I picture it's like squishy. It's like we can't separate ourselves from the work a lot of the time, and we can embrace that. And that's a really beautiful um kind of leg up, if you will, if we think about if we are our work, our identity plays so much into that. Maybe even the things we're putting on paper are us. Use my branding, for example, I love. Like I dress in those colors, the mugs, the things, all it's like, Diana, it's so on brand because it's me. So that's
Mm.
an easy way to just be like, okay, who am I? And how can I express that further into the world instead of making it this complicated? It has to be this. And then I'm a separate entity. And that's what I talk about. I have a program called Human. And it's like, we just get to be a human brand. Like, look
Yeah.
at these people you look up to. So, as far as like the identity piece and the why and all of that, I think we need to make it less complicated. I think we need to make it simple. It can literally be, I go back to this real estate agent because I have someone in mind that's a client because she wouldn't normally be a creative entrepreneur,
Right.
but it's like she's so invested in people having a good experience buying their first house. That's it. That's her why. It doesn't have to be like you're solving world hunger. It
Mm-hmm.
can just be like, I'm passionate about this. I love aesthetic. I love systems. I love to guide people and have this whole relationship with them from, starting the paperwork to buy a house to like literally giving them the keys. And that fulfills me and so many of my buckets and my
Mm-hmm.
identity. So I think that's a good example.
And what about like when thinking about putting themselves out into the world, like simplifying is one thing, but I've heard you talk about before just like the difficulty of baggage that comes with like being putting ourselves into boxes, and that we are multifaceted human beings, and like especially I can imagine very heart-centered creatives and leaders, is that being that type of confinement is like suffocating. And it's, and I think I see this a lot also with women. I was just reading something today about like how mothers get put into boxes in comparison to men, like the soccer mom, the working mom, the stay-at-home mom, but dads are just dads. So, but I say that as like, I think we can often do that to ourselves. Like, oh, I am an advertising professional. I am a photographer. I am a barista, but why can I not be a professional coach and a barista and a this and this? And I think it requires so much permission and like self trust to own that. And I want to know what your experience is with your creatives around like these identity boxes.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm dating now and people are like, "What are your hobbies?" And I'm like, "Entrepreneurship." I'm like, "I like to have conversations about businesses, literally what I do in my off time." But anyway, yeah, I think, I learned as a photographer, then becoming a coach, how big identity is and how we can have this big ego death because all of a sudden I wasn't a photographer anymore. And I'd been professionally photographing since I was 16. And so even to the point where the people around us know us as X, my dad, it was so much easier for him to tell people, my daughter is a New York City photographer. Now it's like she coaches other creatives. I don't really know what she's doing. I don't understand it. So that was my first kind of realization that, wow, my identity is so wrapped up in photography.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's going and asking yourself, and maybe this could be like a journal prompt for the listeners of what is it about the thing that I do? Like photography is the modality, but what is it under that fuels me?
Yeah.
Because I am not a photographer. I'm Diana, right? And I like so many things and I do so many things and I'm different than another coach because I go backpacking and I love bright colors and, I was nomadic and these little things that make me me. But what's under it? Why am I doing photography? Well, I really want to tell people stories and I'm really interested in being kind of the megaphone for people, being their producer a little bit. And then we go into coaching and it's like, why am I doing that? Oh, the same reason. So where all these like threads that kind of come back to your heart center, if you will, and really figuring out like what is my identity? What's under all the work? Why do I feel like I have to be a marketing creative in this industry? Or, if I was doing Excel spreadsheets, I would just shrivel and die. What is that? And then going, okay, this is starting to make sense. And how can I even put that more into my work?
Yeah.
And, going back to like, we are the niche. It's cliche, but it's true.
Yeah. And what came to me as you were saying that was, I think often perhaps it's fear driven or like this sense of self protection to be able to put ourselves in a way that we feel like other people can easily understand.
Right.
And so almost a bit of shrinking in order to please or palpability. Is that a word?
Yeah.
To risk of judgment. Because it's very easy to have your one sentence, which like is your
Mm,
niche of what you do. It's very hard to have a succinct sentence of your niche of who you are. And I think we're kind of taught that if you're able to kind of make it easier for people to understand you, and I believe in the society, value more of doing and like achieving and the what versus the who and the being and the other side of things. And so I wonder if that's where it almost starts from, is like we have to break out of just the box of expectation that we need to put ourselves or present ourselves in a way that's easy for other people to understand, for us to feel safer in connection with other people.
Yeah. I think about even in corporate,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of think of that person. Like if we have a job opening, if we have, a project that we need a certain person, you think of the person versus the skill set a lot of times. And so, it's like if we allow ourselves to be a human being around people and let like our bosses, our creative directors, our team get to know us a little bit more, become human versus just a skill set, we're usually more top of mind. I'm kind of always like the teacher's pet. When I worked in magazines, I was like right hand to the creative director, which I can't say was great because he's crazy. But my coworkers would be like, how do you do it? How are you such like, how'd you get so tight with this guy? Like, you're getting all these opportunities. And I'm like, I just am being me, like unapologetically, not trying to please him, not trying to, let him walk on water. I'm just being me and he likes my vibe and I'm top of mind. So I think that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I agree, because if we think about the people that we call to mind most when we're thinking of who to connect someone to, who like we talk about if we're telling a story, or oh, I know this person. Like I'm even thinking for myself, people that come to mind most are the people who are the most multifaceted, whose identity is not a one thing. It's like such a rich, colorful rainbow of identity that I'm like so excited to talk about because it's so interesting. I So although we might believe or have this perception of reining ourselves in for greater success, and actually perhaps our greatest ability to grow through connection and greater success can come from embracing all the little nuggets of ourselves that make us more unique and memorable, and then being our full being. Because I think people see that and they're like, oh, I want that. And it takes a lot to have the confidence and the drive to fully embrace it.
Absolutely.
Fascinating. And how do you do this for yourself as a
Mm,
heart-centered creative entrepreneur? Everything we're talking about, I know you navigate for yourself. I know I do as well. And what keeps you grounded and focused out of your own way in your full identity? I'll start with that, and then I have actually something else, but I don't want to overdo the
yeah.
questions in this.
Sure. I think, again, just like top of mind, I'm like, it's just not that serious. Like something I've had to really just say to myself is it's just not that serious. No matter what it is, all of our worries, the scarcity, the money, the perception that people have of you, being perceived is one of the scariest things
Mm,
ever. And then even our skill set, like, and our why. And that's why I'm saying, like, simplify it. I'm sorry, but you're not saving the world.
mhm.
But it does take all of us to create something good. We're creating good. And that's all that really matters. And so for me, it's like, I think back to like my photography days in those first years and how much I cared to an anxiety point of like what people thought of their photo galleries. Oh my God. And it's just not that serious. So that's how I kind of get myself through is this life is like a big game and we just get to play it. How lucky. Put on this hat and then put on this hat. And then if we don't like this, we can pivot and change our minds. And it just doesn't have to be that serious.
And where does either the idea of where does self-trust come into that for you? Like,
Mm,
how do you continue to believe in the direction you're taking yourself, your business, your mindset, how do you continue to trust yourself? Because it's like solopreneurship and is such a, like we were just talking about this before the call, such like an unpredictable journey a lot. And I think there's one thing to have a mindset of don't take it too seriously, but there's also a lot of realities in there that can make us feel like things are very serious. And so that's one tool to help. But how do you continue to keep your trust in yourself so strong to guide yourself through it all?
yeah. I feel like I've always had a pretty strong intuition and kind of the permission to follow it. My dad quit his big corporate job to be a cattle rancher.
Amazing.
And we were freaking broke. I'm not gonna lie. Like we had some hard hard realities, but it was like, but you're happy, but
Yeah.
you're out in it, but you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by like not taking it so seriously. Sometimes we get in these, oh my God, I have crazy anxiety, debilitating anxiety a lot of days. And it's so easy to just be like, but, like, what if? Like this is not working. What if it doesn't work? What if I put all this energy into this thing and it's wrong? And there are a lot of realities, putting food on the table and paying the rent. But when we're in that spiral, it's not going to help. It's not going to help move things forward. So it's a mindset of like, kind of like in meditation, how they just tell you to like keep coming back to the breath, to the,
Yes.
the mantra. It's like we go out here and we're spiraling and it is really scary as a solopreneur because everything's on our shoulders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to go, come back, be present. What's the next step? What are you feeling? Use your tools. Did you breathe today? Did you sit in silence today? Did you think about everything around you that is amazing and abundant, and the fact that you're on a laptop that cost $2,500 and you were able to pay for that? You know what I mean? These like back to gratitude, back to self, back to the tools, whatever those tools are for you, whether it's journaling, pulling cards, breath work, movement, all of these things. Because even though there are harsh realities, we can either choose to live in that mindset of this is really fucking hard, or be like, it is what it is, and I'm gonna be who I am no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things my therapist said, which I'll never forget, and I think I told you at coffee, was you're living in your own worst case scenario because you've decided that you are.
Okay. Say
And I
that
was,
again for everybody.
you are living in your own worst case scenario because you've decided that you are.
That is real talk.
Yeah, it meant to me that I was making my life hell because it was hell in my head. And if I just chose that it wasn't, I know it sounds like so many of you are like, this is so frustrating. Like, that's not the answer I want. But to just choose to be different, I choose to not have that mindset anymore. I choose to not identify with my burnout story. I choose to not identify as broke. I choose to not identify as a starving artist. Things start to shift. Even if the outside world doesn't shift, at least you're happier. And then things start to attract to you, right?
And yes, that is so powerful. And it takes you to a place of like perception is the co-pilot of reality. So your perception of your life, your perception of based on your mindset. And I talk to clients about this all the time. We give away our agency all the time. And we do not realize that our mindset, our perspective is actually our choice. And we get so stuck in it that we just believe it to be the truth and the fact. And that's why I think it's so important for us as coaches to remind, I think it's one of the biggest work that we do is to remind people, wait, there are choices here, and that there are so many things you can do to shift your perspective, whether it's going back to the why, whether it's saying you're choosing this. What if you didn't choose it and being like, fuck? It could be, what if you sat here from a place of possibility? You sat here from a place of believing that everything could change in 1 month. How would that change how you feel right now? Whatever. Like there's a million things as coaches that we can pull in. But just the reality of that your perspective is a choice and you are currently giving away that control.
Yeah. And we all know really successful people who are the victim still. It doesn't matter what their outside world looks like. They are the victim. And we also can pull up stories of people who literally don't have running water who are enjoying their lives, and really grateful for them.
I mean, this was me and the start of our conversation I shared with you. I won't go into details, but like I was a mess earlier this week handling something and felt like a total victim. I felt like a puddle of hopelessness and I saw no way forward. Like, and it's such a dark place. But through a couple conversations of inviting in different perspectives of, well, have you thought about this? And some like reality from my own therapist of being like, you need to take control here. You have every right to, and you can. And this is not a role you usually play, but you should now. And just giving myself that freedom to think differently, to show up differently, to take a different stance. Nothing in that situation has changed yet. Only thing that has changed is me and how I plan to move forward with it when I take action. And I feel completely different. I'm not in hopelessness anymore. I was able to sleep last night. I am not, I'm not carrying around that stress and overwhelm as I was. And like I said, nothing has changed except for my perspective and my relationship to my perspective to the situation.
Yeah. Chills.
Right. I mean, but that's why often it doesn't often happen on our own. We need someone to kind of break us out of that because we get into a swirl because our mind's trying to protect us. So going to
Totally.
victim, going to whatever is a form of self-protection, although it's often self-sabotage.
Yeah. I had my big breakthrough that I told you about too this year was that therapist
Mm-hmm.
quote,
Mm-hmm.
as well as people in a container with me saying, Diana, the block is that you think you have a block. Like, stop saying, I think there's a block. I think I'm just blocked. I think something is blocked. It's like, yeah, because you think there is. So just decide there's not, and not to like bypass. It's not about bypassing deep work and trauma and all these things. Like, you can decide today just to be like, that's on the shelf. Gonna keep working on that. And I'm gonna choose the story I want to live today.
Again, like choose the story I want to live today. Oh, wow. We do get to choose that. And we are giving away our power and our agency, as I said, when we just let the world and others dictate what our story is, or our fear to dictate that story, or an old version of ourselves, or the fear to go back from at the start, the fear of like the judging of other people and projection of dictating our story. We talked in the same conversation where we were going through this around, and this is like one of the last things for us to touch on. I think it's really interesting around the idea of like manifestation. To a lot of people, I think there's a lot of people who are like, yes, like manifest, or maybe think about it in like a very specific way. People who are like, that's wooey. But the way you kind of brought it to me or like opened my mind to felt very fresh and new. And I think manifestation and like manifesting for yourself is very much connected to self-trust, very much connected to remembering your why and agency, as well as like also of letting go and trusting in something beyond yourself. But anyways, can you just talk to us about your perspective on that?
Yeah. I mean, I've studied so many different people in the manifestation world, and they're all saying similar things, right? It's like law of attraction, energy, all these things. When I was talking to you, one of the books that I still haven't even finished because
I'm in the process of reading it too.
I'm a Gemini and a manifesting generator, and I don't finish things. But even the first 4 chapters changed my entire perspective, is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. And I just love how he scientifically breaks down like manifestation and energy and the state of being
Mm-hmm.
instead of just like a philosophy. And you're like, that sounds nice, but it doesn't really resonate. So, just the idea that scientifically we really are energy. Like we don't even like we touch our hands together and we're not actually, our hands aren't even touching. It's just energy. There's space between everything. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like if we're tuning in to this radio station of I'm the victim, this is really hard for me. I never get the promotion. The clients never come to me. I don't want to put myself out there, whatever that looks like. We can just simply choice again, to turn the radio dial. The radio stations, all the stations play at once. They're all on different frequencies. They're all available at any time. We just have to tune into them. And so to me, it was just this big wake up call that if I continued to be defined by this story, I burnt out last year and it's just been really hard and cash flow just isn't coming in and I'm still recovering. I'm alone, I'm single, no one's even here to make me a sandwich, right? That's gonna be my reality. That's the radio station my energy's tuning into, and it's just going to attract things like that. It's like being able to see like, oh, I have a white Mazda CX-5. Now I see them everywhere. We know this, right? So then we get to just choose the radio station. I actually want my story to be that I'm successful and happy and things are flowing and I'm actually recovered and I'm ready to roll. And things shift. That's a very brief version of this. I highly recommend the book. But yeah, it's more about like, do you want to keep smoking these cigarettes and hurting yourself? Or do you want to quit the story and become glowing and healthy. And no matter what's around you, your circumstances don't matter. You can choose to be a different way.
I remember in the book, from what I've read so far, is just giving yourself the permission to imagine what it is you want so vividly and fully, no matter what actually feels real, no matter what circumstances you're in, but just so fully believing, imagining, like living in it in your mind. And I think that's a scary, vulnerable thing to do, because I think people are like, I'm going to then get attached, or like, how dare I dream that that's possible?
What if I'm disappointed?
Yes, I got to protect myself from the fact that that might not happen. It's a very audacious, I don't know why I can't say the word right now, thing to do. And I think that keeps people, really holds them back, but then it also holds us in place and keeps us farther away from making that reality.
It's so interesting, the whole body feeling thing that he talks about, because it is about feeling how it feels
Yeah.
when you have what you want, right? And even the other day, my friend lives in New York City and we're always voice noting, and she's like, "Oh, I just wish I could have brunch with you." And I was like, honestly, I can feel in my body what it would be like to just walk out the door and go to brunch with you right now. And it's almost just as good as having brunch with you right now, because I can feel what that would be like. I can picture it in my head. And like, how is it actually different? Right?
Yeah.
Obviously the experience and the things and the tastes, but we can imagine that in our mind.
Yeah.
And it's, your mind doesn't know the difference. Like, it is real. It's like how a dream is so real. So yeah, he gives some amazing examples. Even just like the one that always stands out is the finger exercises, how there's like a test group of, I don't know why it's exercising fingers specifically. I'm thinking like maybe rock climbers do that, but say rock climbers, they're exercising their fingers physically. And then there's a group that is only exercising their fingers in their mind.
Yeah.
And then there's a group that doesn't do any of it. And of course, the one doing physically is the most, but the one in their mind also gains strength. It's just like how they talk about basketball players dreaming of their 3-point shot. And that's just as much practice as actually doing it.
Yeah. That is, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's cool.
And that is, once again, we have control over that. We do have control and agency over our minds and thoughts. And I think so often we do not. And imagine if we're able to take 10% of the time from that fear and judgment and worry or anxiety and put that towards imagining the strength we want to gain, the reality that we want, what we need to shift, what we want to bring into our life, how that could start to put us on a different path that we're actually choosing for ourselves.
Yeah. I think I want to add the tough love of, if you're still in it, you're still in this victim, whatever thing, you have to ask yourself, part of me wants this.
Yeah.
A part of me wants to be in this. So either allow yourself to be in it, give yourself a timeline. You get to be the victim for the next 48 hours. You get to rot on the couch and scroll social media all fucking day if you want, but like, admit it. Part of us wants it. I love the question of the thing that you want. If you don't have it yet, why aren't you letting yourself have it? Like, what part of you is actually scared to have the thing, or you'd have it?
Such a powerful question. I'm sitting here like, oh, shit. And well, there's a lot of self-accountability in that. And then if we take that self-accountability, there's a lot of vulnerability in that, of why don't I believe in myself? Why don't I think that that's possible? What am I actually afraid of? And I get into that with my clients all the time. I'm like, what are you trying to protect yourself from? What's really the fear under the fear under the fear here? Until we figure that out, nothing is going to change.
You'll sabotage it every time. It's like staying in a relationship that's bad, but it's easier to stay. And you get to be the driver of that.
Yeah, I talk about a lot, and think about a lot, that we are often more comfortable in our state of discomfort than the discomfort to actually create a more comfortable environment or reality. We'd rather be uncomfortable in this current state because we're comfortable with this horrible reality, versus sitting in the discomfort of the uncertainty of change, of growth, of vulnerability, of accountability, all of that, to create something new that's actually what we want, or actually what we deserve.
Yeah, success is scary. We've never been there before.
Success is scary. We've never been there before. I've been thinking about that one for a little while. Okay, Diana, one last question for you that I think is very much related to this idea of manifestation and belief in self. I love to ask people, when is there a time when you took a step forward or led yourself from a place of possibility over a place of fear. And what does that mean to you? And what was that like for you?
A lot of times it's having to do with my location. I always say my adrenaline rush has nothing to do with like sports or my body, putting my body in danger, but I love to just like move across the country or go nomadic for 2.5 years. So those are things where I'm just like, what's the best that could happen? And also they're my desires. Brianna
Mm,
Weist, I think is how you say her name, but she talks about like, are you borrowing someone else's desire? And that's why
wow.
a lot of the time it doesn't work or it doesn't feel quite right because we're like, oh, I should want this 7-figure coaching business. But really, I just want to travel the world and eventually have a lemon tree in my yard, you know? So I think it's like, yes, I was leading from a place of possibility by moving to New York without a job and a plan and knowing no one. I was leading from possibility of just like hitting the road and going nomadic. I was leading from a possibility of taking the course to create my course that has brought so much ripple effect and revenue into my life and other people's lives. But at the end of the day, people are like, oh, that's so brave. But really, it felt just right,
Yeah.
you know?
What is the desire you're going after now that is your own versus borrowed?
Oof, it's hard. I think it's one of the hardest things for me because there's everything that I've obtained, all the success that I've had, all the experiences. I never thought that was actually possible. I talk about it as like it would be like me saying I want to be British. It's not, I can't, I'm not British. This is not, I can't just be British. It's impossible. So that's how I felt in my life of like this little rancher's daughter. We don't make 100K a year. We don't travel the world. We don't do these things. So when I succeeded in doing all of that, it's like, what's next? Oof, like I haven't even, it's hard to go there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of our identity crisis when we hit these kind of our own glass ceiling is we're like, what do you want? And it's like, I'm where I thought I would be and I don't know what's next. So I think my actual desire right now is to like, I don't even know if I can answer it because I'm kind of in that space that I think probably a lot of people relate to is like, what do you want? And it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
And I've found that sometimes, because I don't always have a big vision for where I want my business or like I can't always envision things very clearly in the future. As I know people who are like, I want to create this and do this and be this and achieve this and I want to have this. I don't always have that. Sometimes to me, it's just a feeling.
Mm, yeah.
And or like one little line or one little something, and sometimes I just have to hold on to that until it can be articulated into a want or desire.
Yeah. I think that for me, like coming up in like meditations and things, when they ask you that, like your intention, it's always like peace. Like I just want to be not in the shaken up anxiety mode, the spiral. I want to feel stable. And that's not about actually getting stability. That's about being stable within myself
Mm,
first. So that's definitely a desire is like peace within myself, not waking up at 5:30 in the morning with racing thoughts about how this is all going to go, all of that, you know?
yeah. What if only we all could find that? And as you continue on your journey, share with us your secrets because
Yeah,
I also
for
don't want
sure.
to wake up at 5:30 with those racing thoughts. And peace is the ultimate. And I think once again, we are constantly making choices
Mhm.
that sabotage our peace because of maybe other desires or other beliefs or other fears. Thank you, Diana. I just feel like there's so many gems here to collect and little moments of magic that I think will stick not only with me for a long time, but hopefully with so many people who joined us today. So, how do folks continue to get your magic and incredible insight and brilliance?
Yeah, I'm an Instagram girly. I love my community on there. I love DMing people. I love keeping up with people. I love sharing. Anna Davis Creative is my Instagram handle. Please come say hi. I would love to say hi. I'm a human to human person.
You are. So
Yeah. I have a community called Recess for Creatives, which is a really epic place to hang out, which you have been a part of in the past. And then Pollen is my podcast. This was one of those things where people tried to put me in a box and say, like, you should name it creative entrepreneurship, something for SEO. And I was like, I'm going to name it Pollen. And that feels fun to me. So yeah, that's me breaking out of a box. And Pollen is it's just my mic. It's not really that strategic. It's like whatever I want to say, whoever I want to interview, and let's go.
And let's go. Is there any way people could think about working with you right now?
Yeah, I'm brewing something up for January. My big trip definitely had some downloads on that. But right now I'm really building out my one-on-one coaching, which has been a blast. And so, yeah, if it's a thing that you're wanting to get into now, one-on-one coaching or recess is it.
So if those listening, if you were inspired or felt like connected to the way that Diana was sharing her wisdom, her perspective on yourself, your business, if you're a heart-led creative, like you can only imagine what getting one-on-one time with her specifically to you and to your business can do for you. I can promise you that. And the community is a very, very special, rich place of incredible support and championship and advice and connection that we need in this world right now. So Diana, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Thanks for getting unfiltered with us today, and I'll talk to you soon.